Some sports are ingrained into the mainstream. They have little need to rely on growing a committed regular audience, as they get plenty of coverage from mainstream sports and other media. They keep a sustained casual audience dipping in and out regularly throughout a season, which keeps the viewership high and the money rolling in. Think golf, think tennis, or even F1. These sports will always have the regular fan, whose viewership they can count on just by holding the event. They don't need fancy marketing or an overdramatic docu-series to convince them to watch. They are passionate about their sport and they will be watching and attending no matter what. But these sports also get the casual fan. The casual fan will tune in maybe just for a major or a Grand Slam or their local Grand Prix. Maybe they saw said overdramatic docu-series and thought, I'll give that a go. Or they may just have a passing interest in the sport. So they keep up with the results, watch the highlights, and maybe even attend an event every few years. Unfortunately, not every sport gets this kind of traction with the casual. They rely far more heavily on the regular. And MotoGP is one of those sports. Motorcycle racing by nature doesn't lend itself to being a casual watch. Even at the highest level, it has a grassroots feel. It's an edge of your seat, balls to the wall, fly off the handlebars, blink and you'll miss it kind of sport. It attracts the obsessive, the ultra passionate, the even weird or sometimes downright crazies of society. Think bike people. So where does this leave MotoGP? With attendance numbers lower than expected at many events last season and general viewership and interest supposedly down, MotoGP showrunners Dorna have decided that we need a bit more spectacle. Sprint races on a Saturday? Yeah, go for it. And they could be right, but I'm not so sure it's that simple. In my opinion, if there is a downward trend, there are three major factors affecting it. So this is obviously what Dorna sees as a major factor of the trend. Hence their solution to add sprint races to every Grand Prix on a Saturday. And while this solution isn't personally my cup of tea, there is absolutely no doubt that I'll sit there on a Saturday and enjoy these races. But I am a traditional sports fan at heart, and I do like there to be as little gimmick as possible when it comes to the sports I love. But that leads to the question, is there actually anything wrong with the product at all? Parts of the fan base have accused the racing of becoming a little bit bland, with a lot of the blame going to the introduction of aerodynamic winglets and ride height devices, making it harder for the riders to pass one another on circuit. And whilst I somewhat agree and I would like to see these accessories be removed from the bikes, I'm not sure I completely agree that the racing's gotten that bad. I still sit there every Sunday, enjoy what's on offer. And I've been watching MotoGP for over 20 years. I wouldn't necessarily say that the racing's worse, but I do agree that there is perhaps something missing. And this is where we get to the elephant in the room. And that elephant's name is Valentino Rossi. Yes, I am a boyhood Tino fan. And I know his last couple of seasons were poor results-wise, but there is no doubt that his absence has had a major effect on attendances. I know I said MotoGP is for the regular fan, but Rossi was the guy that could bring in the casual. Even when his results started to drop off, there then became an urgency to just see him that one more time in the flesh before he was gone for good. And that begs the question, do we actually even want a sport that's even, closely fought, competitive, where anyone can win on any day like MotoGP kind of is now? Or do we want to stand out, a hero? Deep down, do we all want to be able to say that we got to see the best? Imagine Nadal and Djokovic retire tomorrow. Are you more or less likely to watch Wimbledon? For me, there is no understating the significance of Valentino Rossi's absence in the decline of MotoGP's popularity. The only thing that could have combated this was if Marc Marquez had managed to stay healthy and go on and win a 10th title, thus making him more successful than Rossi. This may have got the casual back in. Come and see the guy who they're now calling the best. Make sure you see him at least once before he's gone for good. When I say promotion, I don't mean ads on your telly or your local billboard in town telling you there's a race on this weekend. These sorts of things are usually handled by the local broadcaster or event runners. I'm talking about the stuff that MotoGP and Dorna do have control of, namely its social media platforms, mostly YouTube. Go on YouTube right now and look back for any race highlights from the 2022 season. Pick a race and then check when the video was published, and then look at when the event was actually held. For most, if not all, the races in the first half of the season, the highlights weren't posted until the mid-season break in July. And for most of the races in the second half of the season, the highlights weren't posted until after the season was already over. How hard is it to get these things posted the same day, the same week? Right. For the Indonesian Grand Prix held on the 20th of March, the highlights weren't uploaded to the official MotoGP YouTube channel until 7th of July. Meanwhile, BT Sport, the local broadcast rights holder here in the UK, had those highlights published on the 20th of March, the same day the event was held. This is something that the likes of Formula One do quite well. If I miss a race, a quali, or even a practice session, I can watch the highlights within hours on their YouTube channel. Now, we could be putting this down to broadcast rights deals in certain countries, why MotoGP can't post it on YouTube that day, but I'd highly doubt that. And little things like this have a big effect down the line. Imagine you love sitting down on a Sunday afternoon and watching MotoGP, or even you just like catching it every now and then if you're home and it's on. But now your kids started playing football on a Sunday afternoon, or athletics, or badminton, I don't know. Or maybe you work in hospitality, you work Sundays, maybe you work in retail, you don't get weekends off. You rely on highlights that night when you get home. And you may not have time to go and watch a full race later on during the week, maybe when you already know the result, taking a bit of the sting out of it for you. All you want to do is pick it up a couple hours later, watch the highlights, get the results, stay interested. Now, how likely are you, after not watching a lick of action all season, to then your local Grand Prix rolls around and then going and forking out all that money to go and go to the event? It's not likely. Formula One also markets itself better with its Drive to Survive Netflix series. Love it or hate it, its popularity is undeniable. It's popular with both the regular and the casual fan. And while its overdramatic production isn't quite to my taste, I can definitely see the appeal. With the driver's character really being put on show, along with a big promo push from Formula One itself and Netflix, leading to some of the more charismatic drivers ending up on US talk shows and big celebrity podcasts, it's easy to see why this is a big win for F1. Enter MotoGP Unlimited. This may be an unfair comparison due to Formula One already having a higher commercial and mainstream appeal than MotoGP does in general, but you can't help but see the differences here. The success of Drive to Survive clearly piqued the interest of MotoGP, but I'm not sure they got exactly what they were hoping for. Don't get me wrong, I liked MotoGP Unlimited a lot more than I like Drive to Survive. It wasn't over the top, it just told some real stories about some real world-class athletes, and I think it was really well made. But my God, what a botch of a launch. First of all, I barely even knew when this thing was coming out, and when it did come out, it had a worse dub than a 70s kung fu film, and gave no option to swap that for subtitles. As well as this Amazon global launch, seeing the series fail to release in certain big MotoGP markets such as Asia. And this directly leads us into our final factor. Now, let me start this point by telling you how it is that I became such a big MotoGP fan. See, my dad is what you would probably call one of the casuals. Every now and then he'd tune in on a Sunday to watch Mick Doohan brain the competition on his way to another world title. You know, since us Aussies like to get behind our compatriots when we're doing well on the big stage. My dad, of proud Italian heritage, also liked watching the young Italians get about in the 125 and 250cc class. And so did I. I enjoyed sitting there watching it with him. They were my favourites. And we liked one green-haired, lanky Italian more than all the others, Valentino Rossi. And through watching a young Valentino Rossi on my screen on a Sunday night, I became obsessed with MotoGP. In fact, all motorsports. I love all motorsport. And the only reason I was able to watch those races is because they aired free to air live on a Sunday through Network 10 in Australia, who had the broadcast rights. If these races were being broadcast on Foxtel, Sky Sports, BT Sport, MotoGP.com video pass, I would not have seen these races. Would I be a big MotoGP fan right now if not for having free and easy access? Having free and easy access to the product is the single greatest way of attracting not just new eyes to the product, but bringing old eyes back. For the 2022 season, only 12 countries on Earth were able to watch MotoGP races on a Sunday for free. In every other country, the broadcast rights are held by pay TV companies such as DAZN or BT Sports. I will add that some of these countries, like here in the UK, you do get broadcast a couple of races a season for free. Like here, we got the British Grand Prix for free and we got the German Grand Prix for free. So, you know, thanks for throwing us a bone. Now, because I do live here in the UK, let's break down what it might cost me to watch every MotoGP race this season. BT Sport can be had for a regular price of £17 per month on a 24-month contract, but that's not the whole story. To get BT Sport in your home, you also have to sign up for their home broadband, which is £30 a month on said 24-month contract, which by the way only gets you like 50 meg download speed, and you know, for around the same price where I live now, I get 10 times that speed. So, and to top it off, if you want to watch it in HD, that's laughably an extra £6 per month to add the HD package. Your other option through BT is a £30 per month app-only subscription, which is a rolling contract and you can get out at any time, but it's still 30 quid a month. So to get every MotoGP race on my telly, £636 per year, for 2 years at least, or through the app for a March to November run, £280. Alternatively, I can buy the MotoGP season video pass. That's €140 for the year. So around £131 at the moment, which works out to about 11 quid a month. When you compare it to something like Netflix, it's not too bad, but with Netflix and stuff like that, I mean, you're getting like every genre of film and hundreds of films. With MotoGP, you're only getting MotoGP, right? And I suppose Moto2 or Moto3 and that. But it's like getting Netflix and only being able to watch crime thrillers or something. And this seems like a price that most of us are becoming less and less willing to pay. The cost of living going up, it's squeezing everybody at the moment. So the thought of throwing 600 quid a year at BT Sport seems a little bit unnecessary and quite frankly a bit ridiculous. This then carries over to race days, and I know that this is not entirely in the hands of Dorna, but ticket prices going up, Exhibit A being the poorest turnout at Silverstone this year, is also not helping getting eyes on the sport. And by the way, being at a MotoGP event is the greatest way to get somebody into it, because it is astonishing to go there and see the bikes live. They are amazing. I took my missus to Silverstone last year. She'd never, not a MotoGP fan, never been to a MotoGP event before, and she's already talking about which one we can get to this year because she wants to go to another one. So you've got to get people through the door. It is nice to see that it looks like, from what I've heard, Assen is capping 3-day passes at €99 for this season. So if you're somewhere in that area, that seems like good value to me. Now, look, I know how these things work. The reason that the broadcasters are the broadcasters that have the rights is because they pay the most money to get them. So why should Dorna accept less than top dollar for their product? Well, because I believe it to be short-term thinking. Sure, you're getting the money up front now, but are you turning people away from the sport long-term, reducing your audience? And look, it doesn't have to be every market, but if you can just pick a few key markets where you maybe take a hit, not go for the highest bid and sell it to a free-to-air TV network just to get, well, the wheels turning again. Is it not worth that short-term hit to mean that the next generation of MotoGP fans gets to grow up being Quartararo or Acosta fans the same way I got to grow up being a Rossi fan? So no doubt over the coming months and years, MotoGP will find many new and exciting ways to change formats and regulations and racing to try and convince us to put our hands in our pockets. And I'm sure they've done their research and they've thought hard about it before they decide on making these changes, like with sprint races. And look, they might know better than I do. We may consume content differently now to what we used to. Everything's getting shorter in form, the TikTok generation. And maybe that's what we need to keep people interested. For me though, I think these things go in and out like the tide. And with Valentino Rossi leaving us and Mark not able to get on track, we're naturally just seeing the tide drift out. And people will naturally be more hesitant to hand over their money to watch riders that they don't see as the greatest or that don't inspire them in the way that the old guys did. Maybe soon another hero will come along or a big rivalry that will convince us to start paying to watch it again. But until then, no amount of sprint racing or overdramatic docuseries will ever be able to overcome MotoGP's greatest weakness. There is no free and easy access to the product. Hey guys, so if you enjoyed this video and you enjoy this kind of content, this essay or article or whatever you want to call it, I did release about a week earlier than the release of this video as written format over on my new Substack page, which you can subscribe to free by heading to the link in the description below. It'll just be a weekly update, newsletter type thing delivered straight to your inbox with my thoughts on all things MotoGP, articles, essays, and sometimes just chatting shit. So if you want access to this stuff early, you can head across there, link in the description like I said. Otherwise, if you're all about the videos and you enjoy a ranking video, you can click on the screen now. There will be a video there linking to my 2023 Rider Light Up rankings. Enjoy, and thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.